Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Clifton Ellis Johnson. I'm the founder and the executive director of the Empower Series. Hope everybody is having a great day. The Empower Series broadcast is brought to you by the generous donations of Any Media Group, Comerica Bank, and your generous donations as well. So we do appreciate your giving. You can go to our website at www.empowerseries.com and hit the donate button. You can also hit the RSVP button to see our upcoming events. And then you can also hit the take a survey button to let us know how the Empower Series has impacted your life. I am so excited today because our guest is Christine Crockett Smith. Christine Crockett Smith is a good friend of mine, and she's also the author of this great book called 18 Master Values. She's also the producer of a conference called The Power of One. And she was the July 2018 Empower Series speaker of the same title, Power of One. Everybody, let me introduce you to Miss Christine Crockett Smith. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
I am so excited to have this conversation with you. You realize that you were the first one that interviewed me on your podcast. Last year, wasn't it last year? Or was it this year? So
was.
Time flies so much,
I
right?
know, it's hard to keep up.
So Christine, you broke me in, you know?
Hey, I made you realize that it was doable, huh?
For real. And I want to
Cool.
welcome you to mine.
Thank you.
And there's so much for us to talk about.
I know.
So, and in addition to, we'll talk about your 18 master values. We'll talk about the power of one, but I want to know, what is the next big thing that you're doing?
Oh my gosh, are you sure you want to open that
I know
door?
we start off the bat. We'll come back and talk about history later. As a financial advisor, we always talk about the past returns of investments. But what I really believe is that the past is really no indication of the future. The future is based on what is your projection, what is your thought. So tell me the big thing.
So interesting to hear you say that, because there's a saying out there that past performance is indicative of future performance. And I have issue with that.
Yeah.
And it's said everywhere in business circles and in books and everything, like as when you're hiring people, that people can change and people can shift, and energy, you can make different decisions and different choices every damn day of your life.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm glad to hear you
We're on the
say
same
that.
page, babe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so exciting. I'm going to start talking about it, and you're going to have to give me a look to make me shut up or something because I'm extremely excited and passionate about it and could go on and on and on and on. But it is the opening of a conscious learning center is what I'm calling it. I was calling it a retreat center, and everybody thought that meant spa and come get your feet rubbed, and that is not at all what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And Conscious Learning Center fits. It's called Kekuatan Satu Ranch, and Kekuatan Satu is Indonesian for the power of one.
Okay.
Which is like my, it's why I'm here. It is to help people remember that they have the power within themselves to change the world. I believe that all 7.5 billion of us do. And I believe that getting that message to people as young as possible is so important. And I love telling and helping tell the stories of people who we would consider successful, no matter what your determination or definition of that is. I love helping tell those stories in situations like this, on podcasts and books, anything, because those stories I have found are almost always circuitous. They started here and they went there. Maybe they were poor, maybe they were broke, maybe they have trauma in their lives, maybe they thought they were going to do this, and then they thought they were going to do that, and then they thought they were going to do that. And I love for kids to see that they don't really have to know what they're going to do with the rest of their lives when they're in middle school choosing their math course, which is what adults tell them. So I love helping people tell stories, and I love helping people on their consciousness path in any way that I can. That is truly why I'm here, is to raise consciousness. And people are like, what the hell does that even mean, right? Mm-hmm. And what it means to me is just an awareness that we are all in this together, and that we have to be really careful with every thought we have, every word we speak, and every action we take, because it affects not just ourselves and not just those closest to us. It affects everyone. And it really starts with your thoughts. And everyone who is troubled, for some reason, they think they're not lovable, or they're not worthy, or they're not enough. some kind of life or people in their lives have layered that upon them, and it's absolutely untrue. We are all lovable. We are all worthy. We are all enough. We all have gifts and talents that we came here to spread with the world. And my job every day when I wake up is to try to help as many people as I can realize that. So the ranch is a natural transgression from the conference that you mentioned that I hosted last March.
Okay.
It was the power of one, encouraging conscious living by celebrating those who are living consciously.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody on the stage is using their time, talent, money, gifts, and energy to make the world a better place. And that's how I define the power of one. And raising people's consciousness is to understand that it's really that simple. What have you got? You know, Teddy Roosevelt said, do what you can with what you have where you are. That's it.
It's that simple.
That's it.
Right? Yeah.
People say they don't have enough time, or they don't have enough this, or they don't have enough that, or something's getting in their way, whatever. It's like, no, you're right here in this moment. And that's where you get to choose, and that's where your power is. So after leading up to the conference last year, there were a lot of speakers who were interested in being there and couldn't be for whatever reason. And everyone who was there and was excited about it was asking when the next one was going to be. And I try not to take action that isn't inspired. Mm-hmm. I try to always pay attention to that. And I'm always checking in. And I wasn't getting a full, yes, we're going to do this again. So I didn't commit to a date in the next year. And I thought maybe it's supposed to be smaller gatherings, 50 people once a month. Or maybe it's supposed to be like 25 in a living room, or maybe it's supposed to be quarterly. And I just kept asking, and I kept not getting any resolution. And so I stood on the stage at the end of the day and said, stay tuned, we'll let you know. And I had scheduled some time away at the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California, after the conference, because it had been quite a year that had taken pretty much everything I had to put it on. And I knew I needed to get away and just center. And Esalen is this beautiful place on the Pacific Ocean with no electronics. They only turn on Wi-Fi for a couple of hours in the afternoon. It was a great, great place for me to go study quantum physics with Gene Houston, that's how I vacation, right? Right. It's like I can't turn my brain power off. I just had to shift it a little bit. It was an amazing week, but I got an incredible, crystal clear answer of what the next step for the power of one is, and it is a gathering space similar to Esalen and the Omega Institute in Kripalu, but in the center of the United States, within an hour and a half of Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. Easy to get to, equidistant from both coasts. I had spoken with the founder of TED, Richard Saul Werman, had a short little conversation with him, and he helped me clarify the importance of getting at least that far away from a city, getting away from the energy of the city, getting into nature for sure, and helping people really separate from their lives. He had tried to do a couple of events in town, and people were checking their phones and stepping out for meetings and stuff, and that just really resonated with me. So, but you can't get too far out, and it gets too hard to get to. So I spent the last year identifying properties and putting business plans together, and the properties became unavailable one by one. I did that 4 different times, and finally realized, wait, I'm doing this ass backwards. I got to get the money together. So the next one I find, I can actually make an offer. And that's where I am right now. I just started a capital raise for $24 million. And that will cover the purchase of the property and the improvements and 2 years of operating expenses. And, every entrepreneur says that their idea is unique and no one's ever done it before, but I really think this is. It's come together just, every morning I wake up with things. I know a lot of stuff for me processes while I'm sleeping. I wake up often and have to grab my pen and paper, and stuff is there that wasn't there when I went to bed, wherever that comes from. And can I keep talking?
Yeah. You breathe a little bit. I'm going to say something else, but keep going, keep rolling.
Okay. Just a couple more minutes, right, and I'll have it covered. But there are 2 distinctly different parts of it. We are going to do complete green building of everything. We're going to pay attention to where we're sourcing our energy and how we're using our water and our waste management. We're going to implement regenerative land practices to bring land back to a healthy state where it can grow things. We're going to have a conscious bison herd. We're going to have free-range chickens. We're going to raise most of our own food. All food will be provided on site, prepared 3 meals a day for everyone who's staying there. So everything will be green, and the land management will all be sustainable practices. So part of it, this is part one, is going to be doing all of those things well, learning about all of those things and implementing them and bringing in as many people from the community as we can, whether it's high school students, people who live in the community, college students, or just people who are interested in these practices and anywhere nearby. It doesn't even have to be nearby. We want people to witness what we're doing and see it as it's evolving,
right,
and learn from it and learn what's possible. And then, of course, once it is built, it remains a place for people to come learn from what we've done who are wanting to do similar things, organic growth of fruits and vegetables and those kinds of things. In addition to that, we're going to provide programming. We'll be inviting people out there to use the space for their own events, people who already are planning events similar to what we're doing, and also for companies to come do their business there. But the programming that we'll be doing when people have not taken the place on for themselves is going to come from 5 different categories. One is spiritual and personal development, similar to what those places that I already mentioned are doing, bringing thought leaders in to share what they do, energy healing and mindfulness and meditation and health practices, nutrition, things that help people live better lives. And then the second part is conscious capitalism, which is extremely important to me. We're going to encourage current conscious capitalist companies to come have their gatherings there, but also thought leaders in the world of social entrepreneurship and conscious capitalism come share and do workshops and speak about what they're doing and why it's important, and help other entrepreneurs know how to truly do business that way, not just claim that they are.
I just say it right.
Yeah. We're going to have things kind of like TED Talks with just really cool people from all over the world who are doing really cool things. That is just endless, the stories of individuals. And my heart is for telling stories of what's going right versus what's going wrong, which is what most of our news does, of course. And the fourth one is going to be the arts. We're going to celebrate musicians and authors and filmmakers and sculptors and painters and have them come out and tell their story and show their craft and talk about the business of what they do, and also play music or paint. And then the fifth one that we're going to draw people from is thought leaders in all of our major institutions of politics and the economy, the environment, education, mental health, physical health. Everybody likes to talk about how those are so incredibly broken and not working as well as they could be on a grand scale. And again, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the little pockets of brilliance that are happening and how do we make them bigger. So between those 5 categories, we will cull together programming in 3 and 4 day retreats from Monday through Friday or Friday through Monday. And when you show up, you know, for one thing, the place is just going to feel so amazing because of the way we're going to be treating it and the way that we're going to build it. But in addition, everybody that you meet at the pool or at registration or around a fire at night, you're going to know they're awesome people who are committed in some way to making the world a better place. And, okay, I'm going to take a breath.
So you said a lot, right?
I did.
A couple of things. If you guys want to see Christine, you can search for, it's July of 2018, Power of One, Christine Crockett Smith, and you'll see her at our Empower series. You also have a website, ChristineCrockettSmith.com, where you can get more information about Christine. Christine, here's the thing, though. There's so much we can talk about. So many different areas. But what I want to talk about, I was driving back from Houston today, and I had this idea, I had this thought. And what I believe life is a manifestation of ideas and thoughts, which is what we are on the same page with. So you've just expressed some ideas and some thoughts and some visions, and you've heard it here for the first time. Watch, it's going to manifest. And the most difficult thing in my belief is to believe in your thought when your current physical environment is nowhere close to it.
Absolutely.
That is so, so critical. And I think the work that you're doing is going to really help people become more aware and conscious of that power of thought, which is what you were saying.
Oh my gosh. People underestimate that so much. And even people who are kind of dipping their toes into exploring being more conscious, they still have everybody around them who's just so eager to tell them that their ideas and their dreams are too much and too big and they can't. And it's really hard to dig in and stay firm in your belief and take it a step further in your knowing. Mm-hmm. You have to know it and see it and believe it to be able to get there. And you have to be able to shut out those voices. In fact, sometimes, there's two schools of thought about share your dreams, get it out there, get other people on board, help manifest. But sometimes, depending on the people around you and the people in your life and how they're going to react, sometimes it's better to keep it close so that you don't have to hear those negative naysayers telling you why it won't work. Yeah,
you got to be conscious about who you share your dreams with.
You really do.
Because I do believe that you sharing your dream and casting your net out there and putting it out there in the universe is going to allow resources to be attracted to you. To manifest it.
Right.
And one of the reasons why I think the past is good is really to look back and to learn from the past, and also not be held back from it. There's a guy who spoke at our Empower series even called Shaka Senghor, and Shaka said that you're not defined by your worst deeds.
Thank goodness.
So you're not defined by your past, right? And I think the future is a blank canvas for you to paint whatever you want on it.
It is. We get to create it.
Yeah.
It makes me so sad when I meet someone who doesn't understand that and who is looking at their world as it exists and focusing on everything that's wrong with it. And they have no idea that by doing that, they're just bringing about more of that.
Yeah.
Because they have to focus on the future with their positive thoughts and ideas. And, I've been saying this a lot lately, and it really has surprised me the number of people in my life, pretty much all of them, their reaction to what I'm about to say has been like, oh my gosh, never thought of that before. All those moments, those moments where somebody says something to you and you're like, of course.
Yeah.
Just never thought of it before, but then you can't unlearn it or unthink it. It becomes yours. This is one of those. Every single thing that exists today, these microphones, that book, these walls, these lights, started with an idea. Everything.
In somebody's mind.
Everything.
Right? Yeah.
Everything. Our roads, our cars, our homes, everything in our homes, everything we're wearing. And when you think about that, to me, it opens up the possibility of whatever it is that you're dreaming or thinking about. I hope it makes it feel more possible to think about how every single thing that exists started with a human thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think there's a level playing field. Now, outside of it, we have physical conditions that are different for everyone, but we all have the ability to imagine. We all have the ability to dream, and that's what this life is all about. And then when you have your dream, it's the ability to believe in that regardless of your surroundings, and hold on to it and believe that it's going to eventually manifest once you attract the right resources. The Empower series is all about that. I want to go back and talk about how we met, too. So we met at the network bar. It was really interesting because you were there doing something. I was there with a couple of my friends.
I was just working.
Right, a couple of my attorney friends, and we were just drinking, hanging out. And then you stopped by and actually introduced yourself to us, which I thought was so cool. And then one of my friends, Lynne, he's a good attorney, a real estate agent. He actually said, you and Clifton need to get together because you guys talk a lot alike.
Well, if you remember, I mentioned the power of one, and you mentioned the Empower series we were introducing ourselves because that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Oh my goodness!"
It was so obvious, right?
Yeah.
And then you spoke at the Empower series and really it's a killing. People were really, really touched by you, and people came twice to the Lunch and Learn, and they came to the workshop.
And brought more people.
Exactly. So that's really cool. So what you're doing is really powerful. When did you first realize this? Because you were on your journey too. I mean, when you came out the box, did you know this? Or
Isn't that something?
what was the epiphanies that you had along your journey to get where you are today?
I was raised by a mother who told me when I came home from school one day and asked her something about God in second grade, she said, I don't know. I've studied Zen and Judaism and Christianity, and I've looked and I don't know. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. And a lot of people have thought like, oh my gosh, that's a horrible thing to do to a child. It was the biggest gift she could have given me because I didn't have a lot to unlearn. I was involved in the Christian faith a little bit as a child, went to church a little bit, and some of it just didn't feel right. The judgmental parts and the exclusive parts and the us versus them. And I wouldn't have verbalized it that way, of course, as a child, but in retrospect, it just didn't feel right. So I kind of decided there probably wasn't a God. If this is what they were saying God is, that doesn't really feel right. So they probably just made the whole thing up, and there just isn't one. And I became an atheist for most of my early adulthood. Mm-hmm. And when I got pregnant with my daughter and was aware of what was happening in my body, that these two cells came together and started dividing and were becoming a heart and lungs and eyes and ribs. And I just thought, there's no way that's an accident. There's just no way that evolved from some amoeba crawling out of the water a billion years ago. And that cracked me open to go, okay, well, then what? Mm-hmm. Then what is it? So I was I was introduced to Gary Zukav's book, The Seed of the Soul.
Yeah, I've
by
read that.
Oprah, as I was introduced to so many things by Oprah. And yeah, it just felt like truth. And it was a truth. It was like nothing I'd ever heard before, that we're all in this together, that we're all one. It spoke of an energy and an existence, not as all-powerful in a dictatorial way, but as in something that is there for us and that loves us and that made us and that we can tap into and partner with and that wants the best for us, and that we're all a part of it, all 7.5 billion. You can't exclude somebody because of the color of their skin or their gender, whether it's the gender they were born into or the gender they chose.
Or the amount of money they make or whatever that is.
Or where they live or where they went to school. You can't do that. And so that started my journey, and that was in the late 90s.
Okay.
And then I just continued I call myself a seeker. I don't ever try to claim that I have all the answers, and I don't think I ever will. I learn constantly, daily, from YouTube channels or people that I meet or books that I read. I'm not kidding you. It's embarrassing, but I have a thing of books beside my bed this tall, because when somebody that I meet and admire and get lit up by says, oh my God, you have to read this book, it's like I have to buy it because I'm so afraid I'll forget. And they're putting into me that this is an important part of my journey. I have to read it. So I keep reading them. I don't have enough time to read them all. But anyway, that's my journey. I'm a seeker, and I've read a lot, and I've talked to a lot of people and been to tons of personal development conferences like the ones we're going to be putting on. And And
were you a journalist, or you did some writing before, right?
I've always been a writer. I was just mostly journaling, though, just for myself. And then I was a screenwriter from 2004 till 2000. I'm sorry, from 2014. No, from 2004 until 2014. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote screenplays and learned about that craft, which is a very, very different way of writing. In my opinion, it's the hardest way of writing because you have 90 pages to set up your character development and every kind of action that has to take place to take those people on their journeys and all of that dialogue. And it was a beautiful, beautiful lesson in writing for me to be succinct and make sure every word counts.
Yeah.
And I was really careful in the writing of this book to not try to put, people tell you to put in fluff and stories. And I just thought I just want to say what I have to say.
Well, it's interesting because I just wrote my first article.
Oh, tell me.
Yeah, it's going to be in the Southern Dallas magazine, and it's going to be on our next speaker.
Okay.
Our next speaker is going to be Wendy Ida, and she's from Los Angeles, and she's coming up here on August 16th and 17th, and she's going to talk about how to take charge of your life again, mind, body, and soul. And so her story is really phenomenal. When you look at her, she's 67 years old, and she doesn't look like she's 67 years old. But like anything else, the story is really behind the looks. She came out of a longer than 13-year relationship with domestic violence and really had to reinvent her life and take charge of her life again. And by doing that, she found that by working out gave her the first sense of control. And so she's just taking that to the next level, and she uses that to help women take charge and reinvent themselves.
Aww.
So I say that because I wrote this article first, like over 1,000 words, and they had to get it down to 400. So how do you do that? You have to make sure every word counts. And
Every word.
That's a practice. So I have a lot of respect for journalists.
Yes, right?
And be succinct.
Especially in this day and time when there is so much vying for people's attention. They don't have time to waste. If you don't keep their attention, they've got 47,000 other things they can flip off to, you know? So it's really important to be careful with your word choice.
So let's talk a little bit. I'm going to talk about the book later, but raising consciousness. How do you do that? How do you raise consciousness? That's a good question. So I'm asking you now.
Well, I'll tell you my personal opinion on that, for whatever that's worth. I have a morning practice that I do every morning religiously. I don't get out of bed without having started it, and then there are other things that I do once I've gotten out of bed. I don't leave the house without it. It is a commitment that I've made to myself. And what that does for me is it centers me and aligns me and grounds me. You know, there's two separate pieces. You can get off into the spiritual, conceptual world, but you still have to live your life every day and pay your bills. So creating that balance of being connected but also being grounded and asking for guidance and asking to be shown the best way for you to use your time, talent, money, gifts, and energy in any day. I always start with that. So then I believe that we all have an energy field. In fact, I was just at a conference of the Institute for Noetic Sciences, and it was really fascinating because they've done so much research and actually measuring of our energetic fields, not just around our bodies, but also around our hearts. And I could go on and on about that, but I won't. But so I believe that just by taking that time in the morning to remind yourself of who you are and who you want to be and why you're here and what impact you want to have on the world, elevates the vibration in your energy field. And simply by being that throughout your day, the people that come into your energy field, where your energy fields cross, different people say different things, whether it's 2 feet away or 6 feet away or whatever.
Right.
And people say that our energy fields go out different distances depending on who we are and I guess what our practice is. But so I don't know about all that. But I do feel like simply by making that choice to be a good human and go out and protect your thoughts and your words, that you are impacting people even if you don't say a word to them. I think that when you enter a room, the energy shifts. I think if you enter a Starbucks or a grocery store or whatever, the people around you can be elevated without even knowing why. They can be happier and maybe speak nicer to their children or maybe have a better day at work without even knowing why. That's the simplest thing we can do. The next simple thing we can do is just smile more.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Look people in the eye and smile. You can shift a person's day that way. When I walked the Camino, I noticed that, I was meeting all these strangers from all over the world. And I noticed a lot of them had, I don't quite know how to describe it, but just, it was a smile, but there was no depth to it. There was no heart in it. And I started noticing that people who are really smiling from a place of happiness and contentment, it's in their, you can see it in their eyes as well, in the way their eyes crinkle and in the twinkle in their eyes. So I started saying, show me your heart with your eyes and your smile. And I started being able to attract people who were similar thinking to me by just paying attention to that. So, you know, bringing that back into day-to-day life, people, you can impact people just by, get your damn faces out of your damn screens.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, so you said a couple of things, morning routines. So there's a book called Morning Routines. Have you heard of that book yet?
No.
Okay. So it lists all of the morning routines for a number of successful people.
Okay.
And everybody has one. And
Thanks, Clifton, for giving me another book I gotta read.
Well, I'm going to give you some more. So first off, everybody has a morning routine, whether it's conscious or not. So you have a morning routine.
Good point.
And the thing is to be conscious and mindful about what your morning routine is. That's number one. There's another book called The Biology of Belief. Have you read that book by Dr. Lipton?
Bruce Lipton.
Sure. Yeah, that's a fascinating book.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then I know you've read The Celestine Prophecy. Yeah, okay.
All of them.
So you talk about energy fields.
And seen the movie.
Okay, haven't seen the movie though. Dude, I need to see the movie. Okay, it's on my list. So with what you're saying though, it goes back to where if your intention is to raise the consciousness, then number one, you've got to be a conscious being as well. So you start with your morning routine, and you realize that you have an impact on people, probably without even seeing them, but just how you're showing up and your energy. But if you're talking to someone who doesn't really get this, you know, I'm still curious about how do you engage and facilitate the awareness that we have an energy field, and how do you do that to someone who's not aware?
Great. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, actually, because we all have 24 hours in a day. We all have our lifespan, whatever that is. It's different for everyone. And to me, it's the most precious thing there is this one human life. And to be conscious about how we use our time is really important. And for me, what seems to be true right now is there's like a continuum from completely unconscious and unaware that we have any kind of connectedness at all to awakened or enlightened. And so there's everything in between. My work in the world is not unconscious to center. Trying to change their minds, trying to bring them in, trying to educate them or prove to them these things that are not provable, they're just felt. That's not the best use of my time when I'm awake. It's the middle to the top. People who are dipping their toe into another way of thinking, people who have heard something about mindfulness or yoga or meditation, or maybe they've met someone who's had a shift in their lives that they admire and they want to have a part of that. People who are dipping their toe in, it can be a really lonely journey when you are living in a group that thinks one way and then you're taking a shift. You can feel not just alone, but crazy.
Yeah.
In fact, they can try to make you feel crazy, and it can knock you off the trajectory. It can. I don't think you'll ever be held back once you like once you taste it.
Once you see a peek of it, right?
You got to know more of it.
Yeah.
But they can. Yeah. So I feel like my work in the world is from just dipping your toe in to kind of considering. In fact, in the back of my book, I have like 8 pages or something of books that have changed my life. And I put those in there because anytime someone comes to me and they're depressed or struggling in any way, I often recommend go to the bookstore, go to the spiritual or the self-development section or whatever, and just read the spines. Just look at them and grab one that seems interesting and then open it up and read the inside panels. One book there is going to speak to you today, and it's the book that you need to read right now. And I don't know what that book is. So that's kind of, for me, like a little library, you know, in the back of my book. If you're interested in thinking and growing spiritually and consciously and trying to be a better human and get the most out of your life, just go through that list, and one of them will pop as the book that you need to read right now that might take you where you need to go next.
You've got books and movies.
I do have
books and movies. This is pretty cool. So now that we're talking about your book, tell me about what prompted you to even write this book. I know you told me a story about it, but I think everybody needs to hear it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was raised by a single mother who did the best that she could, but it was a lot. She had 3 little girls and worked 3 jobs often, and we were on our own a lot. I've been hungry. I've been homeless. And I never wanted children because my childhood was such a struggle, which I have learned was actually the biggest gift.
But while you were in it, it was a struggle.
While I was in it, it was a struggle. And then I fell in love and I wanted his children. And I knew with every fiber of my being that I was going to be the mother that I wished I had. That's why the subtitle is Be the Parent You Wished You'd Had. And this is not a dig against my mom. I mean, some people act like that's a horrible title. And like no, I mean, I love her and she did the best she could. But it was just my mindset was I saw people out there with parents that were loving and caring and had rules and showed up for them. And I just knew I wanted to be that. So my kids are little, trying to figure it out. I'm watching other people around me that I thought would have had it figured out, and they didn't. There was so much chaos in every home, yelling and punishments, and the punishments weren't working, and the kids were upset because it seemed out of line. And so I didn't have really great mentors around me. And I heard the saying, discipline is teaching, just 3 little words. And it just struck me at my core that it's not about punishment, taking their stuff away and whatever. It's like if they're doing something that I think they shouldn't be doing, my job is to teach them what they should be doing instead and why. Perfect little tiny example. You see this all the time. Parents reaching out, you got to hold my hand in the parking lot. The kids want to be independent. They're trying to pull their hand away. The minute I said to my children, you're small, you're little. These cars are looking through their windows and through their mirrors, and they can't see you. So they don't know to stop and be careful. But I'm taller and bigger, and they can see me. That's why you have to hold my hand.
They got it.
Done. Yeah. It's inarguable. It's not like I'm trying to control you and tether you to me. It's that I'm trying to save your life. Oh, okay, got it. Little things like that. So when I heard that discipline is teaching, I thought, wow, then I have to decide what I want to teach them. What does it, I always knew I was raising adults and not children. And that's one of those things that sounds so obvious. But most parents, I would say, don't think of it that way. They're so immersed in the moment, and they think they're raising a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old or whatever stage they're in. We're raising adults. And our job is to give them as much tools and foundation and love and confidence in themselves that they can go out and launch and live their lives. So I thought, okay, well then what do you got to learn? Because I wasn't taught all that stuff. You know, I was scrappy and had to learn it on the streets, so to speak. So it just became a list.
I'm imagining you learning things on the streets. That's all. That was a funny
Dude,
image.
I could tell you some stories.
Well, you know what? Since you brought it up, you got to tell me at least one.
Oh, no. Wow. I mean, all of it. Drugs, violence, promiscuity, stealing stuff, lying, all of it.
So
it was a mess.
Is that going to be in a book in the future? Because they say the more transparent you are, there's some people out there who is going through some of those scenarios, and they're waiting for your voice and your story to kind of wake them up to see that, you know, it's just a snapshot of what they're going through. It's not the total picture. And have you thought about that?
My second and third books are already written in my head. I just got to get them out. And I think those kinds of things naturally interject themselves a little bit into it. But I'll tell you what's true in my life, just on a daily basis. There are people in our society who tend to write off a struggling child as a loser. Yeah. You know, teachers will do it, parents will do it, neighbors will do it, other family members will do it, and they start getting disgusted with them and really dismissing them as even worth their time. And I'm always in there going,
Yeah.
No, you can be broken. You can be a total loser mess, making every bad decision that anyone could ever make, and you can still turn out okay.
Hey, you know, here's a cue. We are all broken in one way or another. There's a missing piece, and we're all trying to find it in some way, and we think we have it, and we find out that it's not. And so we're all in evolution, in my opinion.
Always, from birth to death. I mean, it never stops.
Well, one of the stories, I know, I can see stories in other people besides myself. But my brother has a story that reminds me that no matter what journey, no matter where you are on your journey, it is just a snapshot. You can't take that picture and project it into the future because we're all evolving and we're all changing. And so one day I'm going to have my brother on the show and he's going to share his story. I'm not going to share it for him.
Okay. I'll look forward to that.
But going back to your values, right? So you have 18 in the book, starting with love, positive attitude, work ethic, financial acumen. I'm on that with the Empower series, self-control, curiosity, gratitude, integrity, one of our values, social skills, confidence, pride. Do you feel like you've done these in some sense with your children?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
in fact, I say right in the front of the book, I'm not claiming for a minute that these need to be anyone else's 18 major values. What I'm pointing out is if you haven't taken the time to determine what your values are, and it's interesting whether you were raised in a traditional wisdom tradition or not, even if you were, that conversation about what are my values and what is most important to me at my core, that's not a conversation that people have. And it affects who you choose to spend time with, how you spend your time, how you spend your money. So my main thing that I'm asking people to do is no matter how you were raised, what you were told, what was layered on you by your parents, your clergy, your teachers, your neighbors, it is critically important as an adult that you take the time to, it doesn't take that much time, but take the time to decide, especially if your partner, do it with them, what are our values? Because when you know what they are, decision-making is easier.
You know, I would agree with you. You know, one of my relationships, I went through that process. We did a values exercise where we identified our values individually. Then we came together and defined, okay, what are our values together as a couple? And that's rarely done in relationships.
It's not a conversation people have.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wrote it as a parenting book. I've had grandparents raise it for their children because they want their children to hear it, but they don't think they'll hear it from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had people say it's more like a life book than a parenting book. And it makes me think, you know, what if we got to our college kids before they're partnering and they take that values-based decision-making into who they're even going to be with? And that made me think, what if we went back to high school and had them thinking about their values so that as they're choosing who they're going to bring into their inner core, they're being conscious about that? And that made me think, why don't we go to middle school before they're even choosing that pack they're going to hang with in high school? And it kind of made me feel like, I guess it is kind of a
Well, why don't we
life
come up
book.
with a children's book, right?
Okay.
A children's book. I'm thinking a children's book where it talks about who's in your circle and, you know, why are they in your circle? You know, what do you value about them?
You know, when I think back on my childhood, and we moved every year when I was a kid, so I had that struggle of having to make new friends every year. And I was so about the first person that smiled at me and said hi, I became like, well, who do you need me to be?
Yeah.
What do you need from me? I'll do that. And I mean, it ended up being a huge part of my trouble because the unsupervised children were the ones that would hang out with the unsupervised children.
And led you into different kind of things.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And I just think, what if I had one person, Clifton, you and I, we've had this conversation before. Every human who's lost and afraid and feels alone, whether they're a child, quite often it's children, but even adults haven't found their path yet. It takes one person to believe in them. One person who sees their light and encourages them and won't let them talk crap about themselves, and to help them have those conversations and thoughts about who do I want to be. One person.
Yeah.
And we can be that to anybody that crosses our path. It just takes one person to tell people what they're capable of for them to believe it.
So your calling, raising consciousness. So be aware of your morning rituals, right? Be mindful.
I'm telling you, people think I can meditate anytime I want and I'll just do it when I get home from work. If you don't lay that foundation for your day, it's just not going to be the day you want.
I mean, well, here's the thing. So I would say we know what we intellectually understand that we should start a day with a ritual. We know we should eat well. We know we should get our rest. We know we should work out. but knowing doesn't always equate to doing. And, I've had that. I'll do it later. What's the cure for that? Is there a cure for that?
Well, I'll tell you what. All of those decisions that you just mentioned about how the choices we're going to make about how we're going to live our day, whether it's going to be working out or eating right or whatever, laying that foundation in the morning and consciously thinking about it. And here's another thing that's really important. Abraham talks about this a lot. We get what we focus on. We've already talked about how your thoughts get. Yeah. So if you're saying to yourself, I'm fat and I have to lose all this weight, that's not going to get you there as fast as envisioning your healthy self, deciding that you want to be healthy, and thinking about, I can see who I want to be. What can I do today to get me there? And breaking it into those, that whole, how do you eat an elephant a bite at a time? Breaking it into the smallest pieces. What can I do this morning? Okay, I slept too late. I don't have time to go run. Can I do 6 sit-ups? What am I going to eat? Am I going to go grab that pastry because it's easy and fast, or do I want to take the time to grab some fruit instead? Talking about it to yourself in the morning and laying the foundation just for that day. Have you heard of segment intending?
Segment intending? No, I haven't.
Dude, so powerful. It's the concept. It takes what I just said about having a morning practice to the nth degree, but it's like all day meditation, so to speak. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Before we came into this space today, I just took a minute. I just checked in. I asked for guidance. Let me be everything I can be. Let this serve who it needs to serve. Let us do what we came here to do. And now we're doing this. When I leave here, I will just check in for the ride home. Help me be patient. Help me find the right path. Help me be pleasant and not get aggravated by people who cut me off with it. Let this be a good trip. When I get home, before I walk in my home, I have a house guest right now. I'll just check in again. Let us have a great night. Let us have the conversations we need to have that are going to serve us both. Let us have fun. Let us run across the people that we need to run across, and let us bring our best selves to that, because we're going to a birthday party tonight. And when I get home, before I go to bed, I'll say, let my sleep, let whatever needs to happen in my sleep to help me be who I can be. So anyway, it's just basically constant meditation.
I was in continuously meditation. So interesting thing, on the way up here today, something happened in traffic, and I said something to myself that was not kind and polite. And I had an insight. I said, that thought just created something in the universe, the energy of that thought. So I said, why don't I just create a different thought? Why don't I do that? And realize that I'm not going to see the impact of it, but I have to believe that the impact is going to happen, which is a lot about what we're talking about. So one of the reasons I think people don't wake up and do their morning routine religiously and put positive energy out there about what they want to see manifest in the future is because things are not immediate.
True.
They're not immediate, and we tend to want to get things quickly, like microwave.
Absolutely.
But the thought is, and also you're in a space to where if you say something that doesn't exist outside of you, people are not necessarily going to believe you. They're going to think that you're probably crazy, right? Like, I'm a wealthy person, you're living, not in wealth, or, you're healthy and vibrant, and they'll look at, but you don't look it, or, your position, you got to think about this promotion you want to have. And so the thought is, coming out of our discussion, I want to make a commitment, and people who are watching can make a recommitment to believe in your vision, regardless of your reality, and give it voice.
And, define reality. I mean, if you believe that by thinking ahead and having our dreams and visions and imaginations out here in front of us that are drawing us towards them, then that is, I'm glad.
That could be your reality. Right?
It is what you see as your reality. And that's, the thing that you mentioned about saying, I am wealthy, I am fit. I think that's misused and misunderstood a lot. And you can start feeling like it's BS, but I'm not. Why am I even doing this? But you have to shift and realize that what we really mean is I can see her out there. I see her. She's right there. And she's been eating right, and she's been exercising, and she's been lifting weights a little bit, and she feels stronger and healthier, and she's able to walk further and play with her children. I see her. I see her.
So however you say that in your mind, you want to make sure that you're not canceling it out.
Yeah.
So another person told me to say things in a way to where I'm in the process of becoming.
That's good too.
I'm in the process of becoming wealthier. I'm in the process of being healthier. I'm in the process of making better decisions in my life. I'm in the process of being in better relationships, right?
Yeah.
I'm in the process of manifesting and presenting myself in the value to attract the people in my life that I want.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of acquiring the wealth to purchase this property,
Right.
to have my retreat session.
You know, that's funny. I was at this conference last weekend and was talking about the retreat center a lot. And I had told everyone here in my life that I'm going there, and I think something's going to happen. I think I'm going to meet people or something. So I come back, and the first person I talked to says, "Did you get the money?" And I said, "I did." And he goes, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "Wait a minute. I mean, spiritually,
Right.
it's right there.
Metaphysically, it's coming,
I
right?
haven't caught up with it yet, but I'm closer. I definitely felt closer."
That's good. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, to your point. Yeah, just having it out there and believing in it. It's important.
So we come together as a group. So let's talk about this. One of the things is, if you don't find yourself in an environment that is supportive and is encouraging you in your belief or where you're thinking today, then you have the power of identifying your own circle. So
Critically important.
So let's talk about, and we need to set up a meeting again, right? So
Wednesday.
There's a what?
Wednesday.
Was that in a text message? Okay, I missed that. So we have come together as a group, and you've kind of spearheaded it. So talk about what you have done and what other people can do if they find themselves not in an environment that they feel comfortable, like they're seeking and they're feeling uncomfortable. Talk about that.
Yeah. I think finding just one other like-minded person can be a huge fulcrum and catalyst towards moving into your power. Just one is good. And I say that just to keep it small and doable. And you got to go out there. You know, screens are killing us. We're in every situation. You know, we used to look at the person on the bus and smile. You know, I think bartenders' jobs have changed so much because people used to sit at the bar, and the bartender's job was to, "How you doing?" He was like a psychologist, work it all out before you go home, you know, whatever. Everybody's in their phone. They're not even talking out and getting stuff out. So I forgot what I was saying.
Or you're talking about just if you finding one other person.
Right. So Lynne Mctaggart wrote a book called The Power of Eight because she, in all of her research, and she has tons of research to back it up, she was noticing that when 8 people would get together at these huge conferences that she was putting on and pray over someone, that it would happen. People were healing, and it just anecdotally made her curious. So she partnered with a couple of well-respected research institutions, and they actually did some study over it. And it's I don't think 8 is a magic number necessarily, as much as the concept of finding people that support you and love you and believe in you and care about you, who are like-minded, that you can, you know, we talk all the time about using your language. Somebody at the last meeting said something about, she calls it Portuguese. When she runs into somebody who speaks Portuguese, she's so excited because she can just say whatever she wants without filtering. So whatever your truth is, finding other people who share it and get together on a regular basis, having that planned it out. It's kind of like vacation. When you plan a vacation 3 months out, you get to enjoy it that whole 3 months. So to have something regularly scheduled each time before you leave, schedule the next one, so that you have you know it's out there, and you know you're going to have people to talk to, and you know you're going to have people to support you. Yeah, it's critically important.
Yeah, and so everybody has the ability to do that.
Everybody has the responsibility to do that. Living on an island is not being human.
And so if you're having trouble finding that one person, I would say come to the Empower Series.
There you go. Truly.
Right. On the third Saturday of every month, you know where we'll be, right?
Absolutely. And you know that they're like-minded people who are wanting to grow. And so, but don't bring your damn phone and talk to the people next to you. Get some phone numbers.
I know, really.
Invite them to coffee. That's how it happens.
Bring somebody with you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, bring somebody with you. So on the third Saturday of every month, we're at the Highland Hills Library. The Friday before, we're usually at the Meadows Conference Center. But this next month, we're going to be at the Network Bar.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we're going to be at the Network Bar on August 16th. And then for September, October, and November, we'll be back at the Meadows Conference Center. But in Houston, one of the reasons I was in Houston is that on the second Saturday of every month, we're in Houston.
Oh, my God.
At the Houston Area Urban League in the Palm Center in the Third Ward, which is where my father was raised.
Oh.
So it's like I'm going back to my neighborhood.
Oh, Clifton.
That is so cool.
That's
so cool.
Amazing.
Next is to go to Los Angeles, which is where I was born and raised.
Right.
So we're going to have some fun with that.
You are extending your stretch of influence.
But the biggest stretch is YouTube. So we're live on YouTube now, and we record all of our programs so that people can watch it. There are people watching it in other countries, different states. I've seen people in Denver or Atlanta, places where the Empower Series is not, but they're like, man, we watch it all the time. We really like your program.
Oh.
And their comments are, this is just what I needed to hear at this point in time.
Isn't that just the beautiful synergy of existence that if you put it out there, the right people will show up? Yeah.
So what I would encourage, thank you for coming, and thank you for raising consciousness and being bold and daring to come to talk to, three black guys at the Network Bar as you were leaving, right?
I thought that's what the Network Bar is about.
Exactly. And we all have the power to do that, to reach out, make a difference in somebody's life. Like you said, easily smile or give a compliment. And if you find that you're lacking certain things in your life, then try giving it.
Oh,
because there's other
said.
people who are lacking it too, and they're just waiting for someone to give them that smile, give them that compliment. And you'll find that there are relationships out there that are just waiting. And I think your little acts of kindness can save lives.
It's complete truth. That is complete truth. It doesn't take starting a whole huge nonprofit or building a ranch or anything. It can be the micro interchanges.
So before we exit, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you? Your social media handles, your website, tell us all.
Yeah, I got a lot of them.
Which one do they want? Which one would you like them to use?
ChristineCrockettSmith.com is the best way to find me, I think.
Okay.
ChristineCrockettSmith@gmail.com is my email. Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Whatever
Twitter.
your social media flavor, right?
Yeah, I love nothing more than interacting with other humans and helping elevate their life here on this planet this time around.
Well, Christine Crockett Smith, that's the reason why I use Clifton Ellis Johnson.
I know, I love that.
Thank you again for coming. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully we've empowered you and we've helped you take that next step of raising your consciousness and give you confidence that there's somebody out there that can speak your language.
Right.
Thank A&E Media Group for their support. Thank Comerica Bank for their support and your generous donations. We'll be back again next week. And until then, be empowered. Thank you. So.